I think the fight can absolutely happen. I'm looking at it as Jake versus Joshua, which is quite biblical and it's quite impactful in many ways.
Look, but Anthony, listen to me. Don't take a dive with this Jake Paul, mate. Do not do that, not for $1 billion, my pal. Don't do it. Don't do as the others have done. Do not take dives. If he fights you, knock him dead as a nit, and good luck with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was with His Excellency yesterday. Obviously, he'd met Jake Paul. I think he would like to do it, you know, but it's mad enough to happen.
In what has been the most unexpected turn of events, and one that has elicited debate in both the world of boxing and the entertainment arena, the possibility of an Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight became a reality. The manager of Jake Paul has clarified that talks are already in progress, and the door can be open to one of the most unusual bouts in modern boxing history.
I think we're looking at it happening in Q1 of 2026 is kind of the current discussion. I think it's public that AJ was taking a little time away. I think he had a little surgery. So once he's ready and once Jake is ready, we're going to squarely focus on that.
Although nothing has been signed yet, both parties are discussing the specifics, and initial talks suggest that an agreement may be reached, provided that the necessary financial and organizational infrastructure is in place.
So I think size-wise, we can get comfortable with it. And I think experience-wise, Jake is learning very fast and growing, and Joshua is a little long in the tooth. So it could be a very interesting matchup, and we're actively discussing it with Matchroom.
Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight. Rising French heavyweight and 2016 Olympic champion Tony Yoka reacted with shock when quizzed on the possibility of the rumored fight. Yoka, the fighter who trained and fought on high levels over the years, challenged the fairness and the logic behind such a face-off. He highlighted that Joshua is financially stable and also one of the highest paid fighters in the industry, particularly in the heavyweight division.
That's bullshit. Like, I can't believe it. You can't make me believe that Anthony Joshua is gonna fight Jake Paul. Like, why? Nah, man, it's not like he doesn't need money. Joshua doesn't need money. He's the fighter who makes the most money in boxing. Like, he's the heavyweights. Everybody knows that he's the one, you know?
Yoka went on to echo that Joshua is not yet old compared to the level of heavyweights, about 34.35 years old, and still very much in the elite arena. To him, a contest against Jake Paul does not tally with his current status in his career. The postscript of his recent statement, yes to Tony Yoka, no to Jake Paul, however, was more than a hint that he would have been a lot less reluctant about a possible fight against Joshua himself. Indeed, in the background, preparatory negotiations on the Joshua versus Yoka match, a more traditional fight between two Olympic gold medalists and already clearly established heavyweights, have taken place.
If you tell me Mike Tyson's gonna fight Jake Paul, okay, I get it. He's old, maybe you wanna make some money, maybe you want just to come back, you know, and to fight again. But Anthony Joshua is still good for a heavyweight. I think he's like 35, 36 years old.
Yeah.
You can't tell me he's gonna fight Jake Paul. Like what's the point? There is no way he's gonna fight Jake Paul. Nah, I can't believe it.
So yes to Tony Yoka, no to Jake Paul.
Yeah, definitely.
This match, should it happen, would be a huge crossover event, one that would combine two very divergent boxing careers. Anthony Joshua, the two-time former holder of a heavyweight unified title, is a man who has made his name in the sport as an Olympic medalist and through years of competing on a high level. Joe Rogan responded to the current hype about an Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul match with curiosity and skepticism in equal measure. On his podcast, Rogan emphasized how serious an idea Jake Paul might be in terms of making the fight a reality, to the point where he is being reported to have already agreed to an almost unreal split of the purse just in order to make the fight a go.
But they're talking right now about doing Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul.
I know, I saw that.
Jake Paul apparently wants that fight. And he agreed to, I think it was 99% to 1, where Joshua gets 99% of the money and he gets 1%. See if that's true. That's what I believe I read that online. That might be just some shenanigans.
The story of Jake Paul is the opposite, because he came out of social media fame and started finding a niche in the boxing world with marketing himself, questionable matchmaking, and its indisputable population pulling. Both names are heavy, but in a completely different manner. Joe Rogan went even further in his analysis of the possible bout between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua by relying on the fact that the task would be massive just to get such a match against his hands. He admitted that should Paul somehow manage the upset, it would become a tremor in the history of boxing, but he was quick to clarify how low the possibility is of happening. Rogan also reminded viewers of the high-level status of Joshua. He is also an Olympic gold medalist, a former heavyweight champion, and a fighter who just beat Francis Ngannou.
If he beat Anthony Joshua, good lord. Good lord. I mean, that's a big if. Right?
I mean,
Anthony Joshua,
I do not think-
Olympic gold
Yes.
medalist, former heavyweight champion of the world. What he did to Francis Ngannou,
I
like,
know.
good lord.
Yes.
Do you want that smoke?
Yeah, I just think it's all about the promotion or whatever. I have no idea what the actual motivation is for that fight's not competitive at all.
Well, it's a dangerous fight.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Joshua's going to try to make an example out of him,
Yes.
for sure.
And will.
And will.
Rogan went ahead to challenge the actual motive behind the fight, citing it could be more of a promotional event than a sporting one. He clarified that it is way more competitive than Josh Quivers. On a competitive level, Rogan predicted that Joshua was not going to attempt to win an easy fight, but would try to teach Jake Paul a lesson. In a post, he claimed Joshua to be amongst the most dangerous one-punch knockout artists in modern boxing, and pounded on the technical and explosive nature that would make him a nightmare to any matchup.
I mean, Anthony
I know.
Joshua is one of the biggest one-punch KO artists ever.
Yes.
I mean, he's a one-punch night-night guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's a great boxer, you know, very skillful.
Yeah. The
But-
Ngannou fight, we all thought it's like Ngannou with Fury. It's like, wow, this guy's in the mix now. He's in the mix. Let's see what happens. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
The manager of Jake Paul, Nakisa Badarian, was keen to respond to the doubt when it comes to exposing Paul to a strong heavyweight such as Anthony Joshua in a boxing ring. He pointed out that raw power is often the last thing to go in boxing, and Joshua has remained a real knockout punch. The manager compared him to Mike Tyson, saying that of course Tyson was more deadly in his years and also older than Joshua, but Joshua hits hard.
So power is obviously the last thing to go. So obviously AJ has a ton of power and he's still fairly young. Mike Tyson, much more vicious of a knockout artist than Anthony Joshua, much older than AJ, but that was a risk that Jake was willing to take.
The manager was quite clear that this matchup is not about external pressure, but the personal desire of Paul. He made it strictly clear that even though he does not urge Paul to engage in such dangerous fights, this is something that Jake desires. They have discussed it in detail, and Paul is now sure that he is moving forward and will surprise critics.
So if people were comfortable with Francis getting in there with AJ, Jake, who is now 13 fights in, plus one amateur fight, a lot less than AJ, but much more than Francis Ngannou, I think we're very comfortable with it. Ultimately, it's not a fight that I want Jake to do, it's a fight that Jake wants to do. And that's a discussion we've had at length, and he feels very confident about where he is in his career and his chances of upsetting Anthony Joshua.
The construction of this battle does not carry the normal matchmaking alone. That is not merely letting two fighters agree to fight in the ring, but it is to build a certain spectacle that should entertain the audience and be believable. Tony Bellew did not pull punches when discussing the ever-increasing speculation on the possibility of a future matchup between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. The ex-world cruiserweight champion rejected the notion and described it as a deadly mismatch that should never get past the verge of the discussion table. Jake Paul is attracting headlines in the sport, but in the opinion of Bellew, the former is not anywhere near challenging a top heavyweight such as Joshua.
Money talks, as they say.
Money talks and bullshit walks. We all know that phrase. We've all seen it, but this is another level. This is a really dangerous. He ain't fighting a granddad. He isn't fighting a grandfather. It's absolute lunacy. It's insane. It's dangerously insane. Is right. And I never thought I'd say that in my lifetime, but because he says some crazy. But he probably could knock him out with his bell end.
There is a huge size discrepancy between them, with Joshua, who has a typical weight of 240 pounds, and Paul weighing 190 pounds. It seems that the fight will either have changed rules or a catch weight. The focus of the discussions is how to ensure that the fight is safe physically and viable financially, without destroying too much of the integrity of the sport. Saudi Arabia and Las Vegas are being looked at as prospective venues, two destinations that have hosted major global events with the size of purse capable of drawing the attraction of names such as Joshua and Paul. Eddie Hearn, promoter of Anthony Joshua, gave a measured yet telling response when asked about the possibility of a Jake Paul versus Joshua fight. He clarified that such a matchup wasn't something they were actively pursuing or even seriously considering at first. Still, Hearn admitted that if the offer landed on the table, it would be hard for Joshua to turn it down.
It's not something we expected, and it's not something we're targeting. If it's offered to us, I would be shocked if AJ didn't accept it. Why wouldn't you? I mean, the plan for us is to fight Tyson Fury next year. If we can squeeze in Jake Paul along the way, and you guys want AJ to end this whole process, he'll gladly do it.
The discussions with AJ are as follows. We will be ready to fight November, December. We are planning life without Jake Paul. But if that is for real, of course, we take that fight in a heartbeat. We don't think that, I don't just think Jake's doing it just purely for publicity, but at the same time, will he actually do it? We'll find out soon, but we're up for it. But we can't just live in the world of waiting for Jake Paul. So we're going to fight December, maybe early January.
Eddie Hearn gave a candid response when asked about Jake Paul's repeated call-outs of Anthony Joshua. He acknowledged that Jake has been relentlessly pushing for the fight and made it clear that if Turki Alalshik were to officially put the offer on the table, they would seriously consider it. From Hearn's perspective, it would be easy work for Joshua, something they'd be more than happy to take on under the right conditions.
Jake Paul's talking about fighting Gervonta Davis, who's 135 pounds. And then on the other hand, he's talking about fighting a 260-pound monster in Anthony Joshua. Listen, he's crazy enough to probably do it all if the money's right. But we're not really interested in waiting until 2016. And we're certainly not basing our career around a potential fight with Jake Paul. But if we were offered it, why not? I mean, it would be such an easy night's work, and it would be massive. And Jake's smart. Look, I know that we have our back and forth. Jake's improving as a fighter, and you have to respect the fact that he's dedicated not just to the business, but also to the hard graft of boxing.
Hearn also gave Jake Paul credit where it was due. He admitted that Jake is dedicated to the sport and has made noticeable progress since entering the boxing world. However, he didn't go overboard with praise. According to Hearn, Jake isn't terrible, but he's not exactly elite either. What concerns him is that Jake's growing circle of advisors may be feeding him the idea that he stands a chance against someone of Joshua's caliber. That, Hearn warned, could lead him into very dangerous territory.
I think he's got that many people around him that I wouldn't be surprised if he thinks he's got a chance against Anthony Joshua. You know, Jake, I watched him, Jake. You'll knock him out. Yeah. It's like, you know. But, you know, there's a difference between fighting Gervonta Davis, even Canelo Alvarez, and then fighting AJ. You know, the other two you can get just humiliated and schooled and beaten up a little bit. The other one you can be fully decapitated in. So you've got to be careful and you've got to be smart. And I know you want the money, I know you want the big moments, but this ain't a game.
The reality of these two warriors is anything but similar. Climbing the ranks to being at the top could only be achieved by structure, discipline, and being an elite. Having won an Olympic gold medal in 2012, Anthony Joshua rapidly ascended the heavyweight ranks by winning his initial world championship in only his 16th pro fight. Possibly one of the defining moments of his career came when he beat a record crowd on his victory over Vladimir Klitschko in 2017 at Wembley Stadium. Joshua, even when he is beaten by Andy Ruiz Jr. or the two fights against Alexander Usyk, has kept facing the best in his division and has remained a legitimate top-tier heavyweight boxer. Jake Paul has also shown serious interest in meeting Anthony Joshua, and it is also evident that he is fed up with being judged, whatever the level of the opponent he comes across. Recently, Paul accused fans and critics of overreacting to everything he says and does in one of his recent interviews. He noted that when he was fighting against older fighters or fighters with less experience, people were saying that he was taking soft fighters.
And so I like the challenge. People, that's the criticism. Fight someone in their prime who's a beast. I think people just want to see me lose. That's really what the message is behind it all. And Anthony Joshua is an insane fight, but I want that challenge. We've been DMing back and forth. He wants to make it happen. He called me up and it's looking very likely for next year.
Paul says this criticism is not concerning the opponents. It is the fact that people did not want him to be successful. In his opinion, there are many people who just want some excuse to go against him, regardless of the cause that he chooses to pursue. Paul added that he is no longer listening to the negativity anymore, and he is out to prove himself at the top level.
I want to fight Anthony Joshua exclusive because I know that I will beat Anthony Joshua. I know I will beat. Knocked out, right? Yeah. He doesn't have a chin and he has no skill and he's stiff. And I love you, Anthony. We're friends. But I want to fight you. I will beat Canelo. I will beat a lot of people. I will not beat David Benavidez.
You know, it's going to happen. Like, seriously, it's going to happen. We were talking with Turkey tonight, negotiations live in person, which are always fun. But it's going to happen, and it's just such an exciting fight that crosses the whole globe. When you ask a lot of people about certain boxers, they don't know their names. And everywhere I've been going, I just talk about Anthony, and I don't have, you know, I'm global. So it's just such a good fight for the sport of boxing, and people will think I will die, but I will show them why I can rise against all odds and beat him.
Also, Turki Alalshik has now stepped in with a firm show of support for the potential clash between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. Speaking with confidence, he made it clear that there's no valid reason this fight shouldn't be made. Alalshik emphasized that discussions are already underway behind the scenes, and the necessary steps are being taken to move the fight closer to reality.
Are you really talking about a fight between him and Anthony Joshua?
Why not? It is a win-win deal.
You seem to have made anything possible in boxing. Is the dream coming true? I sat with you a long time ago now.
You are with me from 3 years now. You see what happened. But Saudi Arabia now is pushing to have big events, great events, not only inside the kingdom, also outside the kingdom. We have a lot of things here in England. I see him, he's guest for Queensberry, and we are talking now about the future. Let's see.
Are you really talking about a fight between him and Anthony Joshua?
Why not? It is a win-win deal.
The emergence of Jake Paul is despite the fact that it is unconventional but strategic. His boxing career began in 2020 by having small experience, but he made use of his platform to create enormous interest and earnings. Critics did not miss a chance to dismiss him. Nevertheless, Paul took training seriously and began to develop his skill set. Not wasting any time, Tommy Fury went back to the limelight after Jake Paul called out Anthony Joshua to a fight. The latter went viral, and Fury even sent a trolling message about the matchup that they had in February of 2023, with Fury winning via split decision in his debut professional victory. Paul has been gaining steam with his more televised aspirations, but Fury ensured the world that regardless of whom Paul targets next, he still has the advantage that matters, that is, in the ring.
Good morning, guys. Just wanted to give a little opinion on everything I've been seeing on social media lately. Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. Just wanted to come in here and remind everybody that that bum couldn't beat me when I basically had a broken hand. I had one hand and he still lost. Jake Paul, I'm still your daddy, and everybody weighing this fight up, don't bother, because he ain't worth a shilling. And the loss will always be there, Mr. Paul. Take it easy and have a good day.
Jake Paul's victories over other former MMA champs, such as Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, established his credibility, and the fact that the only blemish in his record is a loss to a professional boxer, Tommy Fury, demonstrated both his limitations and his potential. Paul got back in fighting form, goring to a greater extent, and going up against lower-ranking contenders to further refine his art. Recently, Tyson Fury, a former heavyweight champion, has come out to make a bold prediction. He feels that Jake Paul can knock out Anthony Joshua should the two ever go to war in the ring. Fury referred to Joshua as a spent fantasy, and it is clear that Paul is on the ascendancy to the extent that he would wager £1 million on Paul winning.
There's been some talk about possibly Joshua using Jake Paul as a tune-up to fight you. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know about tune-up. I think Jake Paul knocks him out.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Why so? What impresses you about Jake Paul?
I just think Jake Paul would knock AJ out. I think AJ's a spent force, and I think Jake Paul's on the rise. And I like his new heavyweight look. Bit chubby, bit bulky.
The media personality Simon Jordan stunned many by picking a rather unexpected side when he gave his opinion on a possible match between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul, and offered his encouragement to Joshua to take this fight. Most critics believe that the fight is going to damage the legacy of Joshua, who spent several years giving the fight an edge, but Jordan is adamant that legacy is part of the business as well.
And I think people forget things, and I think they forget what people do in years to come, and they'll remember what Anthony Joshua did. If he goes and fights, it's very easy for people to say, oh, you shouldn't take that fight because it damages your legacy. Jake Paul, whatever you think of him, right, brings a huge amount of commercial interest and a huge amount of revenue, right, which is why Turkey Al-Sheikh will be speaking about him, because it opens up a whole raft of other commercial opportunities. And it's very easy to turn around and turn your nose up at something.
The aspect that he highlighted is the commercial force and vast coverage that Jake Paul has, and which boxing cannot ignore. Jordan affirms that the promotional publicity and the financial windfall that this bout is guaranteed are too much to miss. On a business front, he opined Joshua would be prudent to take the reward and take part in what would represent one of the biggest paydays of his career.
Anthony Joshua goes in, pops him a few times in the face, walks out of 150 million quid. No one will remember the fact he fought Jake Paul. They'll remember the fact he knocked Klitschko out in Wembley in 2017.
Totally agree with that.
So I'm kind of, whilst I don't like it, and I don't like the way that Jake Paul gravitates to these brilliant athletes and like a moth sucks the life out of them because he gets a benefit of association, because I think they deserve all the association. But he is a and there was opportunity there, isn't there?
The same was also held by Spencer Oliver, who was in support of the Jordan view with his experience knowledge. His basis was that Joshua should take the fight not just through the financial implications, but also because he would make his name even more recognized in the world. According to Oliver, such fights were not as traditional, and a fighter is not judged by the unorthodox fights. According to him, boxing history is replete with the stories of legendary boxers who entered the ring with a surprising opponent, and yet their reputation was untarnished. To him, the boxing world is a fast-forgotten industry, and fans are usually keen on success rather than show.
Listen, commercially, of course it works because it'll be huge and there'll be a load of money on the table. For Anthony Joshua, it's like sort of, you know, he's going to get rewarded very well with no risk, minimal risk, no risk at all. He's going to go in there and he may then put all this stuff to bed with Jake Paul and calling out all these different champions, etc., etc. So, of course it works. And when you're talking about, you know, the credibility that Joshua's going to get, he's not going to get none now, but are people going to remember that? Of course they're not. Like, when he goes on to do what he does, didn't Muhammad Ali have some sort of strange fight in the middle of his career? Didn't he box? Yeah, he did. He boxed some non-boxing guy and whatnot. Like, people don't remember that. That's what I'm saying. Look, us as boxers, we don't remember stuff like that.
Also, Barry Hearn has recently made a statement that it should take place in case all of them want it. He had an understanding of the significance of the fight and was sure that it would be a major event that should be observed by fans. Hearn, who is well known for having no filter for comments, also observed that as much as the enthusiasm behind the fans is vital, money remains the greatest determining factor on whether the fight happens or not.
I don't really have an opinion. I listen to the market. If the market says they want a product, you bring out that product. If the market says that we love darts, I do lots of darts events. If the market says they want to see Anthony Joshua against a YouTuber or whatever you want to call him, an influencer, the market has spoken. And anyone in business that doesn't listen to the market don't stay in business very long.
From a boxing side, though,
I'm not qualified to give you a boxing answer because I'm not a boxer. I'll tell you what, though, for the type of money that I think would be involved, you and I might become boxers.
When the lines between spectacle and sport begin to blur, boxing enters a territory where anything can happen, and the Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua saga is the latest proof. With promoters intrigued, legends divided, and fans passionately split, this potential clash is no longer just fantasy. It's creeping closer to reality. Now it's your turn to step in. Would Jake Paul survive a round with Joshua, or would AJ send him crashing back to reality? Drop your predictions in the comments, hit that like button if you want to see this fight happen, and subscribe for more hard-hitting boxing breakdowns. The bell hasn't rung yet, but the noise is getting louder.